Hi guys, and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron, and welcome back today to another video. We're joined by Tom T Logic. As always, dead excited to have Tom back on the channel, and we're going to sit down and talk about recruitment. We're going to sit down and talk about this summer and what Everton need this summer and who Everton need to bring in ultimately to improve this squad. We're recording this the night or the morning after the night before the Sheffield United defeat, and it's quite evidently clear for me, and I think for Tom and probably a lot of Evertonians, as to where Everton need to improve positional wise, the types of players Everton need to be bringing in. But for me this summer, the recruitment is vital. You know, we've just sat there last weekend and watched Leicester City win an FA Cup final against Chelsea, and we all praised their recruitment and how brilliant their recruitment has been over the last 4 or 5 years, and it is easy to compare that to Everton's recruitment, certainly given the money that we've spent and the situation that we're currently in. But this for me is an absolutely gigantic summer for Carlo Ancelotti. It's a gigantic summer for Marcel Brands, and we absolutely have to get it right. We've been linked with a number of players over the last couple of weeks or so. I've sat down on the streams and give my opinions on them and spoke about why I think we should be going after different types of players than, you know, ones that played in the Champions League 7 years ago and have had injuries since then. But we're joined by Tom today to talk about all of that. So Tom, firstly, before we get into any of it, mate, how are you, and have you gotten over last night's, let's be honest, absolute crap show, to put it politely?
Yeah, I mean, it's just gone down with an absolute whimper on it this season. I mean, me and you were probably recording a few videos in December, and we were thinking Europe's firmly on here. And I mean, you're looking at last night, and you can maybe have a go at tactics and things like that, but like I've said previously, that Everton haven't had, we've all said Everton haven't had the best team out, but that was probably the best possible team Everton could have out. Yeah. Barring Yerry Mina, but apart from that, they had James Rodriguez, Decore, Allen, Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin. It was a really strong side, and we're not talking about, you know, Manchester United here, are we? We're talking about Sheffield United, who's been relegated for the past 5 weeks, something like that. So it's been it's a bit of a disappointment, and I hope now, and I hope firmly now that they sort of don't get reactive with the recruitment and sort of stick to the guns, in the sense of, like, you sort of hear like the Max Aarons of these world and things like that, or you Godfreys, they go down that route instead of thinking, right, panic stations, we've got to go get these Allens and James Rodriguez's and things back in, you know what I mean? Because it just doesn't seem very viable long term, in my opinion. No,
I agree, absolutely spot on. And we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about the defence today and the goalkeeper, and then we'll have another video up in the next couple of days talking about the midfield, and then another one talking about the forward lines. But we're going to focus on the back line. But before we get into any specific positions and specific players, mate, this is a massive summer, isn't it? It's absolutely vital. I don't think there's been a summer in my lifetime where it's been so evidently clear as to what Everton need, the positions we need to improve on, the types of players we need to bring in, and it's all down to Marcel Brands now and Carlo Ancelotti to make those footballing decisions. Because let's be honest, what we saw again last night was a side with no real fight, no real backbone, no real passion, no real energy, and for the majority of the game, no real quality either. Let's be honest, we struggled to string a pass together for the majority of the game. So it's an enormous summer in the history of our football club, isn't it? And we talk all the time about the project. Obviously, Marcel Brands, 3 years into his Everton contract, just signed another 3-year deal. So effectively, he's bang in the middle of his Everton career at the moment. And this summer should be the summer where we start to see some real progress. But it's all about bringing those right players in the right, you know, stages of their career that want to get out and have got something to fight for. I've said it before about the likes of Coutinho's, and we were linked with Aguero and Bale the other day, and Koulibaly, and I sat here and I said I don't want any of them, and people were in the comments saying, what, Cam, you don't want Koulibaly, you don't want Coutinho? And I said, well, no, because these players aren't in the right stages of the career. I'm not saying they're not good footballers or that they wouldn't come in and improve Everton. Of course they would. Look at us yesterday. Coutinho would come in and improve Everton, but he's not what Everton need. He's at an age that Everton shouldn't be looking anywhere near. He's had injury after injury, and he's not the Philippe Coutinho that played for Liverpool 6 or 7 years ago. He's not that player. If he was, he wouldn't be getting linked with Everton the same way James Rodriguez isn't the 2014 Golden Boot winning midfielder, because if he was, he wouldn't be at Everton Football Club. So I know that they're only rumours, and that a lot of those rumours have come from journalists that have got a lot of things wrong, and obviously there's nothing to say that Everton are in the market for those types of players, but it's absolutely vital we get it right this summer, mate. It's absolutely vital we go after the right types of players.
Yeah, I mean, I think this thing where fans get this thing of this is a massive season, this is a massive summer, to get things right. That only comes from the club and their high expectations of what this so-called squad could do. It's false pretenses really, because this squad is not good enough. It hasn't been good enough for a very long time.
Yeah.
Mashiri come in when we were 11th, and the best thing we've done is 7th under a Ronald Koeman, who, let's be honest, did not want to be at Everton Football Club.
Yeah.
And what him and Steve Walsh produced was a pitiful attempt to try and break the top six really, and left us with a lot of bad taste in our mouths. But then you bring in a Marcel Brands, who, let's be honest, he got left a terrible card dealt with, didn't he? Really, and you listen. There's no denying that even him, he struggled to bring in top quality players who you sort of see that could progress this team. It's very short term thinking. So in terms of thinking, it's a massive summer for him and Carlo Ancelotti. Yeah, it is. But in my eyes, I think in terms of looking at Everton, I think Everton as a club and Everton as a fan base need to just take a step back and sort of see this isn't working.
Yeah,
it's just simply not. This approach is just not working. So how do we change it? We've got to sort of change our own expectations and think, right, let's give Marcel Brands and Carlo Ancelotti 3 years to push us and decide a plan and a philosophy and sort of progress the club stage by stage. You're never going to get Champions League from Everton are never going to do a Leicester or just a random miracle where one season all of a sudden we're fourth.
Yeah,
the odds are against us. You know, you've seen West Ham, but West Ham have put in and have implemented a philosophy and a style, and have brought in players who suit that style.
Yeah,
and let's be honest, David Moyes has done a very good job with them, but they'll fall off a cliff next year, presumably, if they go and get I think it's the Conference League, isn't it, or something like that. And so I think Everton, but in terms of Everton, I think we need to take a step back and sort of look at how we want to progress as a club. What's the identity? What do we want as a fan base in terms of recruitment strategy? Are we done with these sort of 30-20 million signings on 30-year-olds? In my opinion, I am.
Yeah.
I want to go see the Fofanas. I want to go Wesley Fofanas who've gone to Leicester type style. I want to go see more of Godfrey signings.
Yeah. I
want Everton to sort of shock me in a sense, or surprise me with a player that you think, oh no, it could be a slight risk, but he could be very, very good.
Yeah.
In terms of what he could bring to the thing. You've seen it again in recent weeks with Leicester. And Boubakary Samari is very highly rated in football. He has been inconsistent, but they've been known to develop these young players.
Yeah.
And when you look at their team anyway, and their sentiment, their midfield is pretty much sewn up for the next 5-6 years if they choose to keep them.
Yeah.
You got Wilfred Ndidi, who's 22, and then you've got Yuri Tillemans, who scored a winning FA Cup final, and he's 24. You know what I mean? I know they paid big money for Tillemans, but 40 million. The sell-on value, and I know people, it's a bit of a trigger word, isn't it? Sell-on value for fans, but his sell-on value is huge now.
Yeah.
And you look at that to me in the modern day now. You look at how Liverpool approach the FFP, and you look at how Leicester have now approached the FFP in terms of that. They're the blueprints.
Yeah.
You've got to sell high to then bring in low and potential. You've got to.
Yeah.
you would never assume that Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah and Roberto Firmino will be world superstars. No one. I mean, a lot of people in analytics and things like that in the game, but in terms of thinking that you've just then sold a Suarez for 100, I think it was like 100 million or 860. I don't know what it was. Sorry, Coutinho was as well.
Yeah.
You know, and then you bring it. You look at Everton's approach, right? Just dead quick. Everton are looking at Barcelona squad players.
Yeah.
You're looking at Juventus squad players. You're looking at all types of. You're looking at these so-called elite clubs squad players. Where in terms of what Leicester done it, Leicester went and got Yuri Tillemans from Monaco, and they got Ndidi from Ghent or Genk from Belgium.
Yeah.
Now they're not elite clubs, are they?
No.
You look at the top three of what Liverpool have done with Mohamed Salah, Firmino, and Mane. Mane got bought from Southampton like about 20 other players.
Yeah.
But he, again, 30 million, Premier League proven. I know it's thingy, but then you look at Roberto Firmino, bought from Hoffenheim for a specific role, what the manager wanted because he fitted the philosophy, what got implemented. And he come from Hoffenheim. Hoffenheim are a massive club in Germany. Yeah. Then you go for Mohamed Salah. Didn't make it at Chelsea. Went to Fiorentina, lit Italy up with Fiorentina, then he went to Roma. Then he got signed by Liverpool. So we've got to pull away from so-called big name signings and things like that. Yeah. You've got to build a team. You've got to build and implement a style and go and recruit for that style.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you're spot on. I think you brought up a fantastic point there about the likes of Leicester. Look at Lille, currently top of League 1. Borussia Dortmund have done it for years. These are clubs that, and back in the day, I get it, because clubs used to be thrown at the same, oh, you're a selling club, you're nothing but a selling club, this, that and the other. You bring players in and then they leave. I would give absolutely anything for Everton to be a selling club now, because what a selling club means is that you're bringing players in, you're bumping the value up, and they're going for much more money, and that's usually because they're performing and they're improving your team. Leicester are a selling club who have won a league and an FA Cup in the last 5 years, and have, they sold Maguire to Manchester United. As Tom said, they brought in Fofana, who's been brilliant. They sold Chilwell to Chelsea. They brought through young Luke Thomas at left back, who scored a worldie the other day. They sold Kante at Chelsea. I remember they sold Kante to Chelsea, and everyone said, that's it, Leicester will go, Leicester will fall now, there'll be nothing. They brought in Ndidi and Tielemans has just scored from 30 yards in an FA Cup final. Our players don't even shoot from 6 yards out. They sold Mahrez, they brought in Maddison, who's had a great impact. So Borussia Dortmund have done this for years as well, by the way. They brought in Erling Haaland on the promise that he won't be there in 4 or 5 years, he'll be at somewhere else, but they know they'll make an awful lot of money on him doing it. And they've done it with various other players. They've done it with Lewandowski, they've done it with Goetze. He joined Bayern Munich. Obviously Hummels joined Bayern Munich as well. They've done it with Jadon Sancho, Jude Bellingham. Come here, we'll give you this platform. You've got a point to prove now. You prove to all of these world elite clubs. I'm not saying Dortmund aren't one of them, by the way. They're a brilliant club, but you prove to these big, massive boys that you're good enough to play for them. And those players, and while proving that, take Borussia Dortmund to, they won a cup this past weekend, didn't they? They're consistently challenging in the German league. They're a club that they're consistently challenging in the Champions League, but they're a club that everyone knows will sell their best players when it comes to it, because that's what they do.
Yeah, well, if people have a short term memory in terms of Dortmund when we're very flip-floppy in terms of in Germany, and then they sort of switched their approach.
Yeah.
And then, listen, obviously you can sort of point out it with Leicester's and things like that they do sometimes get transfer wrong, but not every single transfer is going to work out.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the ratio has got to be higher than the losses. Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah.
So in terms of where people can point out an Ayoze Perez who think that he's been a bad signing, well, has he really? You look at his stats and things. He's helped them. He's scored. He's helped the squad out. He's a squad player.
Yeah.
This is what Everton fans have got to get into their heads in terms of, you can't always buy a first team player just straight away, like he's going to start. Like you can't, like you're going to have 24 lads who are going to start every week. It's just impossible. You've got to approach it and have sort of like this approach where you go, well, say for example, briefly, like a goalkeeper. Everton are after the goalkeeper dead quick. Do Everton go then sign a £50 million goalkeeper because they got Pickford? No, obviously not.
Yeah.
You've got to have a strategy in how you're going to work around the money that you've got available and where you're going to push that money into.
Absolutely.
Like in terms of looking at Everton, Everton had a very good model under David Moyes, whether you like it or not. He brought in Marouane Fellaini from Standard Liège. No one knew who he was. Turned out a very good player. Tim Cahill, Mikel Arteta, Phil Jagielka, Stephen Pienaar, Leighton Baines, Tim Howard. You know, Tim Howard come from Manchester United for a nominal fee. You've got to be strategic. You've got even with like Martinez was like, you could say how much he wanted of his style and things like that, but he took over that mantle from foundations of what Moyes done and put into that attacking flair, didn't he?
Yeah.
And it produced probably one of Everton's best seasons that I've ever seen, really.
Yeah.
In terms of what points wise, and typical Everton, you know, you get 72 points and still don't make Champions League. So, you know, someone's doing some rain dance or something with the Liverpool shirts on. So, I mean, it's just Everton. In terms of now, Everton have got to change their approach.
Yeah.
I would love. This is a key area as well. They don't engage with fans, and we don't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
We sort of just hear we want Champions League and we want Europe. Well, that's great. So how are we getting it?
Yeah.
Because I'm not seeing it, and many others aren't seeing it. We can listen. I'm very critical of Machiri, and people are like, "Oh, I've got an agenda about Machiri." I haven't got an agenda about Machiri. I've got. You're looking at an owner who looks at Everton and thinks, "Right, 100 million will solve all this." And then you're like, well, who are you getting? We're like, oh yeah, buy Gareth Bale. I mean, it's just... Sorry. I nearly choked when I had Gareth Bale.
That's it.
It's just all so you can grip me. You know, things like that. It's just, economically wise and recruitment, it just doesn't make sense.
No, absolutely not.
It's so disjointed, and the key is the identity of the club and the philosophy. Everton haven't got a style of play.
No.
Especially at home. Everton, I mean, they've been very good away from home. Defensive setup, sit back, counter attack. Hope that Calvert-Lewin or Richarlison, James Rodriguez, and Luka Dean can create something between themselves.
Yeah,
that's the approach. So Everton have got to sort of see now. Like Brands has been given a new 3-year deal, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I would like to give him the chance to have not complete full reins, but reins in terms of, right, well, let's see how you will plan this out.
Yeah.
In terms of getting Everton into a sort of position where they're going to actually push into that top 6.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you made a brilliant point before off camera about Brands seeming at the moment like a negotiator. You know, all the good things we're talking about Brands, it's, oh yeah, but we signed James for nothing and his wages and this, that and the other. Why aren't we letting the footballing people make the footballing decisions? Because it's easy to go at Brands. It's easy to say, you know, if we go out in the summer and we buy Bale, Coutinho and Aguero, I'm not saying we will, it's very easy for us to all sit there and go, what's Brands doing? Why has Brands bought those players? Those players aren't going to improve everything. But who's to say that's Brands' decision? Who's to say Brands is not sitting there going, I don't know why we're buying these players, these aren't what we need, and it's other people that are making that decision for them?
Well, just taking that example then, Brands come in, and then Machiri ultimately made the decision that Marco Silva was going to get the managerial job. Now, that summer we all got told that it was going to be a 4-3-3, and when you look at the recruitment style, Brands recruited specifically for a 4-3-3.
Yeah.
Marco Silva did not play a 4-3-3. So,
Yeah.
what more could he can't go into the changing room and go, right, we're playing 4-3-3 today. You know, he's not Billy Bean, like on Moneyball, you know what I mean, where he bounces in and starts smashing up things with a baseball bat. You know what I mean? Well, I hope it does at some point.
It'd help.
But, yeah, you know what I mean? But it's so much you can do.
Yeah.
I know I'm saying put an identity, put a philosophy in place, but when the manager hasn't got that, like, listen, Ancelotti's come out to previously, hasn't he? He said, this is why we play defensive football and we want to play attacking football. Well, I understand that, and I agree. Yeah, I'm happy to hear that, but I don't see the actions in place.
Yeah.
Because when other managers have come into this league, all right, yeah, I'm gonna say Guardiola, Klopp, and things like that, they have not wavered from what their philosophy is. So when you've seen sort of Man City dropping, and then he was like, right, we need wingers, so we went and got wingers. Yes, it was on a massive scale because they've got the money and things like that. But the same with Liverpool. Klopp come in, he did not change his philosophy. All he did was change the players to implement the philosophy.
Yeah.
It's all well and good saying this is why we play defensive football. I would much rather see, and this is why I think pressure is on from above to get Europe, because it's so short term that you think, well, we can't ultimately with this squad fit in a style, because the style with these players will probably get us 10th, 12th.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But I would rather see that, so I'm seeing what we can do in the summer.
Yeah.
So if in terms of Everton, like attacking style, and they go play a high line and they go press and things like that, then you look and they go, right, this is how we want to play. Okay, well, Michael Keane can't do the high line, right? Yeah. We need a centre back. Do you know what I mean? I want to see things like that. Yeah. I don't want to see us. So, like, it's great. It was brilliant this season, winning away at Liverpool and things like that. But for that, you've just went and got beat by Sheffield United at home.
Yeah.
So it negates it for me. It's and when you where are we now? 8th, 9th? I mean, Leeds and Arsenal are on our toes, really, aren't we? I mean, from looking at Sheffield United, it's going to be hard to even see that we could beat Wolves and Man City. But we'll take for example Leeds and Aston Villa. Take away Leicester and Liverpool. Take away Everton can look ahead as much as they want, but there's teams with philosophy, style, and recruitment approach who will take over Everton.
Yeah.
You've seen Aston Villa, the sort of, but they've got that sort of young core players with your John McGinns, your Konza, your Grealishes, your Douglas Luiz, your Watkins. You know what I mean? They only need 4, maybe 3 or 4 players to bolster it.
Yeah.
And they will go ahead of Everton, because Everton's approach is get Europe, get Europe, get Europe.
Yeah.
So
short-termism, isn't it?
It's so short-termism, Cam. And listen, as well as they go, right, it was great last season, the recruitment. Right, Decore's 29, Alan's going to be 31, and I think James Rodriguez is going to be 31 as well, or 32. They will need replacing after this season.
Yeah.
Or bringing in, starting to transition away from them. It's so short-termism, it's untrue.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. I agree with everything you've said there, and I think, like you said, Everton need a change in philosophy. We need a change in just the way in which we do things, and certainly the way in which we recruit players, because, you know, listen, I like James, I like Alan, I like Decore, and it's all well and good, but I've said it before, those are 3 players that would be brilliant if Everton had the foundations of a squad. If Everton had 7 or 8 Ben Godfreys, and then you put in a Decore to add that bit of energy, you put in a Alan to add that grit, you brought in a James' quality, then yeah, it'd be excellent. But there's no point putting those players in a squad that's already full of players that simply aren't good enough. And that's why Everton shouldn't be looking at signing another James Rodriguez-esque player. We don't need more of that. We need players with a bit of athleticism, with a bit of pace, with a bit of energy, with, even players with a bit of a chip on the shoulder. Players that come in and you go, right, okay, I've got a chance now. I need to prove that I'm good enough to play in a team that want to be challenging in Europe. Not players that are thinking, well, 6 years ago I was playing in a Champions League final, so I've got nothing to really play for here. Where's the fight? That's what I said as soon as And we will go on talking about goalkeeping and the defence in a moment, but I've gone off on a little tangent here, so I'm going to finish it. That's what I said about when we signed Aguero. Sergio Aguero, when we were linked with Aguero last week, Sergio Aguero is playing in a Champions League final in the next couple of weeks or so. He wins that. He's won everything there is to win with Manchester City. Where's the fire in his heart to come and play? What's his motivation to play for Everton? He's not going to come. He's not going to look at Everton and go, right, I've done everything with Manchester City now. I'm in my 30s. I've got injury issues. I want to go and do it all with Everton. No, if he signed for Everton, it'd be, boss, I can sit on the bench for the majority of the season. I'll pick up a big wage. I'll get involved every now and then. Where's the motivation in these players? And I'm not saying Everton are after these players, by the way. I'm not saying that I believe everything that I read in the paper, because I don't. But just steer away from them. Anyway, let's get into the defence and the goalkeeper. You mentioned the goalkeeper briefly then. Jordan Pickford obviously has been exceptional recently. Everton's best player for me. He was the only player last night in the Sheffield United game that seemed to be screaming, seemed to be shouting. At one point, I think he come to the halfway line to clear a ball, because I think he just wanted everyone to get forward. The saves he's been making have been excellent. He seems to have matured a lot, Tom, and I said in the review to the Sheffield United game just before that, is it any surprise that Jordan's the only real player in the squad with any competition behind him? Jordan's the only player that I think this season has thought, if I don't perform here, if I don't improve, Carlo's got no issue with putting Robin Olsen in. He's shown that on a number of times. He's got no problem with taking me out and putting Robin Olsen in and saying, right, okay, you're having a few games. And Jordan, subsequently, since the Merseyside derby, I don't think he's put a foot wrong. He's saved us in pretty much every game he's played in. The Villa game the other week, I know we lost, but it had been about 4 or 5-1 without Jordan Pickford. Even last night, he made a brilliant save when Mason Holgate decided to try and assist Jebison for what would have been his second goal. We obviously need a keeper in the summer, because we don't know what's going on with Robin Olsen. If he signs, then that'll be a signing anyway. So we need a goalkeeper. Are you sort of with me? I'm not interested in going out and signing a number one. I'm happy for Jordan Pickford to be our number one next season, and I'm happy for us to go out and again sign somebody that can come in and give him a bit of competition, give him a bit of it, whether it's Robin Olsen, we've been linked with Sergio Romero from Manchester United. But are you sort of with me? Do you think that whilst we need a goalkeeper, obviously because Olsen's only on loan, we don't need a number one? We don't need to spend 60 million on a number one?
No, certainly not that approach anyway. I think competition's healthy. Yeah. I think it's shown. Yeah. I think it's shown this season that Pickford sort of stepped up to the mark when listen. Some people fold and some people rise to the occasion. when Carlo Ancelotti sort of not in the sense of like putting it on your toe, but sort of sounding you out in a way, is like, if you don't step up, you're not going to be my goalkeeper. Yeah. And since the turn of year and his new haircut, it's just been absolutely. He's been fantastic, and I don't genuinely think he's getting the credit he deserves. Yeah, absolutely. I think he's been unbelievable. I mean, some of the saves you think, well, he's got away with that. We've got away with that one, and things like last night. Like, he couldn't have done nothing for the first goal, but the second, where he's 1-on-1 and he just flies out. It was brilliant, and it kept us in the game, and we obviously never really got into it. But yeah, I mean, to taking the approach on a goalkeeper, it really depends on, like, you've got João Virginia there. I mean, what's going on with him? Yeah, is he going to be our third goalkeeper for the next season? Probably, and you'll probably be happy with that. I genuinely don't think he shows much competition to Jordan Pickford. No. But yeah, I mean, you're looking at a Robert. What does Robert Olsen want? What does Robin do? We've heard a lot of rumours and reports. Take it all as a pinch of salt, don't you? Yeah. But after the situations he's had in Liverpool, in terms of house getting raided and things like that, maybe he does want a different change and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, if you're just looking at it briefly, there's quite a few, isn't there? There's Sergio Romero, who's on a free contract from Manchester United. Yeah. He would do perfectly. It depends on, obviously, signing on fee and in terms of what wages he wants. So maybe in terms of him, yeah, he could bring real competition to Jordan Pickford. Then you're looking outside and you think, and you're trying to look around leagues, and you're trying to look around even in Premier League, what could sort of give Jordan a bit of competition. And you look around, you see in terms of, I think one in particular stands out, and it's Rui Silva from Granada. Yeah. I don't necessarily think at the moment he's signed a new contract. I don't think he will. It depends on who's who's really sounding him out. Maybe other big clubs are in for him, but a Rui Silva who's 27, having over the last 2 seasons had 2 very good seasons at Granada. Granada obviously got into the Europa League and things like that. So, and you're looking at in terms of what type of wages he will be coming from Granada, it won't be that much in terms of what a Romero would be. So
yeah,
I think a sort of a player like that would bring enough competition to Pickford. But if Everton see Pickford as a long term thing, a long term goalkeeper first team approach, then you go get a Sergio Romero to sort of be a sort of stopgap in terms of when for if Everton are then going to look into the future and sort of find that goalkeeper who will take on Jordan Pickford's mantle.
Yeah. It's certainly not an issue in terms of first team goalkeeping that we need to address this summer. There's various other positions on this pitch that need addressing as a matter of urgency before goalkeeper. Obviously, as you said, mate, we do need a goalkeeper. I think it does depend for me on what Robin Olsen decides. There's, like you said, there's been a number of reports. Some reports are saying he's not happy and he wants to leave. Some reports have said that, and he has come out himself, albeit it was before all of the things happened with his personal life. He come out himself and said he wants to stay. His family are sick of travelling, his family is sick of moving about, and he's happy here and he wants to stay. And I think the club would be happy to keep Robin Olsen because I think it takes a little bit of a weight off the shoulder. Obviously it's not a massive weight, but it's sort of make sure we can just put the goalkeeping situation to one side and focus on the other areas. But you're right, I think Sergio Romero will be fantastic. Rui Silva, somebody we were linked with heavily last summer as well. But no, I agree. I think Jordan deserves a lot more credit than what he's been given, to be honest with you. I think especially since that Merseyside derby in the turn of the year, he stepped up. He seems to have matured. He seems to be a lot more comfortable. He comes out, he's collecting balls, his saves have been fantastic, and he's not making any of the silly individual mistakes that he was making prior to the turn of the year. And certainly that Merseyside derby, as you mentioned, he's got a boss new haircut. He looks the part now. And yesterday, he seemed to be the only player that was looking like he really wanted to win. He looking like he cared, and said it on the review earlier on. It's no coincidence that Jordan Pickford was the Everton player that was interviewed by BT, and the reason for that is because whoever controls that at Everton has gone to Jordan. You go out and do that interview, because any of these do it and they're getting ridiculed, whereas you're the only player that fans will look at and go, no, do you know what? You worked hard today. And Jordan come out and said it himself. We were beaten on work ethic and passion by a relegated side. He looked embarrassed. He looked fumed, but it wasn't down to him. It was down to everybody else. He done okay. So no, I agree. I think goalkeeper again. Obviously, just on that Pickford interview, it was very telling. It was very, very telling what he come out and said in terms of training and etc. It was a bit of an eye opener, wasn't it? Yeah, definitely. Well, again, he looked fuming, didn't he? And I said it about the what game was it? I said it about I think it was the game against Villa, the defeat the other week. If I'm Jordan Pickford, I'm going into the changing room after it and going, are you messing? I've made 5, 6, 7 absolutely world-class saves there, and you had one job to see them out, and you've allowed the player on his right foot to curl it in. Are you absolutely joking? And he didn't look very happy yesterday, and rightly so. But no, I think we'd all be in agreement that I'm happy certainly to give Jordan next season, because I think he's improved drastically. And also, it's not like we're talking about a team that are going to go and win the league next year and are maybe a goalkeeper away from that. We're not. We're about 400 players away from being anywhere near it. So, yeah, obviously we need a backup keeper, we know that. But Sergio Romero's name's been thrown in the hat. I think it depends on what Robin Olsen decides, to be honest with you. Yeah, I think if he wants to stay, he'll stay, and we'll get that deal over the line. But when you think about it, though, he'll come with a transfer fee. So maybe I think 5 million was approached now. Everton might look at it and think, well, if Sergio Romero's available and we give him like a signing on fee of £1 million and 50 grand a week, I'm just saying hypotheticals. That could be a better financial package than what Robert Olsen gets. You know what I mean? So it all depends. You've got to find the best fit, really. And listen, if Olsen does want to leave, then Romero's, I think, a glaring obvious choice, because
he's already settled in the Northwest and things like that. So all them variables come into play.
Yeah, and he also wants to join Everton in the summer. He hasn't hit that. His wife hasn't hit that.
His wife's not happy.
He wanted to be an Everton player in the summer, and Man United blocked it. His wife, I think his wife's got the kit. To be honest with you, I think she's got a season ticket for next season. And so no, I agree. It is, and maybe Marcel Brands and Carlo will sit down and judge the financial situation there. We'll move to left back then, because it's the next easiest position to talk about, because I know centre back and right back are two positions that we probably will need to, in fact we do need to address in the summer. In terms of left back then, obviously Luca Dean recently signed a new deal. Can't really see him leaving in the summer, can't really see him wanting to leave in the summer after signing that new contract. He spoke about Everton being like a wedding and being part of his life and his family and in his heart and all of that stuff. I know it could just be words for interviews, etc., but I think it was wholesome by Luca Dean. In terms of backup left backs then, we know we've got Nelson Kunku, who we haven't really seen an awful lot of this season, probably haven't seen enough of, if we're being honest, in terms of the fact that we've been dreadful and he hasn't had much of a chance. Thierry Small obviously on the left. Do you sort of think we need to bring in a backup left back, maybe a bit of competition for Luca Dean, or again is it sort of like goalkeeper for you, where you're thinking, if we get everything else sorted then maybe, but there's much more important positions to fill on the pitch? I think you've got yourself muted. There you go. We're back.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a tricky one, isn't it? Again, I think it's similar to what the goalkeeping situation is. It's what do Everton do with a young lad like Nkunku? I mean, he's coming into his 20s now, and he hasn't really had a full season of first team football.
Yeah. So
do we then go and look at a sort of things of trying to get him loaned? I know you got Thierry Small, who's been, I don't know whether it was him or agent-wise, being a bit vocal in terms of what he wants and what he wants for his development and things like that. So Everton really are in a weird situation, because you've got Luca Dean, who's ultimately your first team left back at an age where he's going to start coming into his prime at 27, 28, isn't he?
Yeah.
So and then on the other hand, you've got two young lads who aren't quite ready to who obviously, for Glaring, that aren't ready to sort of step up into first team, to sort of give him a rest that I think, and also as well, the competition that Pickford needed the other season. I think sometimes Luca Dean has been susceptible to sort of going through the motions in some games, because he's starting every week, isn't he? Yeah. There's no real much competition for him. So in terms of that, I don't necessarily think it's a massive hole and a gap that needs addressing straight away. And you can't really bring in 10 players in one season. Well, you could, but it'd be a bit of a heavy duty task, wouldn't it? So in terms of that, there's players out there like Omar Richards at Reading, whose contract's up in the season. I mean, you look at that, could that be a possibility for Everton in terms of looking at a sort of making a profit in terms of a year, 2 years time, maybe something like that? You could take an approach like that, but I think we're sort of, you've got to sort of look at what's more the priorities in this team, and you sort of then, once you sort that out, maybe then you start looking around other areas and other gaps where you can fill. But again, it just all depends on what Everton are going to do with Nkunku.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree completely. I think you're spot on. It's mad, isn't it? Because when Luca Dean spent 2 or 3 months out injured this season, and I think we all sort of thought, right, this is going to be the chance for Nkunku. He's going to get in, he's going to have an opportunity, he's going to be able to show us what he's got. And then, little did we know, Ben Godfrey stepped in at left back, and look, Ben Godfrey done an absolutely exceptional job for 2 or 3 months that he was in there, and kept Nkunku out the squad. And I think Carlo Ancelotti was happy with that, because I don't think he really trusted Nkunku to step in and be able to do the same job as Luca Dean could do. So, you've also got to look at that as well, haven't you? There's that Carlo knows now, right, if Luca Dean does get injured, for as much as we've got Nkunku and Thierry Small. We've also got Ben Godfrey, who's proved he can fit there and play at left back if need be. But no, I agree in terms of Nkunku's career. I think the club need to make a decision now. We heard rumours a few months ago about Thierry Small not being too happy and potentially wanting to move out the club and to go and improve his career. And I've not any big real issue with that. If he wants to go and play every week, then go and play every week. No massive issue. He's not going to get in over Luca Dean. But yeah, like you said, I think again it's another position that could we improve on? Could we bring in some backup for Luca Dean? Yeah, potentially. I don't think Luca Dean's really looking over his shoulder and fearing Ben Godfrey because he's on the right of him and he's playing centre half, and he sort of knows, well, if I don't perform, he's not going to put Ben Godfrey at left back because he has to play centre half. So it's only if I'm injured that'll happen. But again, I don't think it's a massive priority. Let's get into the juicy positions then, mate. Centre half, and then we'll get into right back, which I think we all know is probably numero uno target for this summer. But in terms of centre back, obviously we've got Yerry Mina, who the club needs to make a decision on. And he's 27, 28 years old now. He's obviously injured at the moment. He has had a lot of injuries throughout his Everton career. I think he's out of contract next summer, so he's going into the final year of his contract. We've got young Ben Godfrey, who come in this season and has had an exceptional season. Still got a lot to improve on, granted, but he's been brilliant. Michael Keane, Mason Holgate, who there's been murmurs of, to potentially leave. And then you've also got Jared Branthwaite and the likes of Gibson, etc. in the youth. Jared Branthwaite, I think, is a brilliant young player and will be one for the future. But do you think Everton are in need of a centre back this summer? And if so, does one of those, let's say out of let's say Keane, Mina and Holgate will discount obviously Godfrey because he's only just come in and I don't think he will leave. But if we are to bring in a centre-back, I think we're likely to see one of them three leave the club, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive stumbling block this year, Mina contract, isn't it, in terms of to the sort of pull the trigger on making a profit on him now. I highly doubt they will because, in my opinion, he's probably the best centre-half
at the club.
Yeah. I think he's very important. The only issue is he's very injury prone. He doesn't play. I mean, he plays enough games, but he doesn't play enough games for an Everton side that need him there every day. I mean, in terms of centre halves, I think it's a massive gaping hole for me.
Yeah.
Like you've just mentioned, right back's a huge priority, but I also think centre half's a massive priority as well. I think your foundation starts at centre half. Your building blocks. Your style of play all starts now from your centre halves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ben Godfrey, he's a work in progress for me personally. I think he's been excellent this season. He's been pulled pillar to post in all kinds of positions.
Yeah.
From the back four, I mean, but going forwards, he's got to start playing centre half. I think in terms of you're looking at a style and what approach you could do with the full back positions in the centre halves. I think a high line is key for Ben Godfrey. I think he's got the speed. I think he reminds me a bit of like Jagielka in terms of a bit of that rough and tumble sort of style play where he'll just go flatline someone and but he's also he hasn't got the sort of I would say like a mistake in him as yet. I haven't seen it yet, but in terms of that sense. But I think with a high line he's got the pace and ability to cover the depth very well.
Yeah.
Passing wise, he's good, but I don't think he's been outstanding. I think he's got the ability to do it. We've seen that at West Ham with his ball to Calvert-Lewin, and he can bring the ball out. He is a progressive player, but I think he needs a dance partner.
Yeah.
Yerry Mina, could be it, but I think Everton have got to sort of look past you can sort of look at Yerry Mina and think, right, he's our centre half. Well, that's fine, but it's more so when you're looking at Michael Keane and Mason Holgate that there's a very, very gaping hole there in terms of quality.
Yeah.
Michael Keane, it's a bit of a mad sort of thing at time at Everton, hasn't it, really, for him? He come in, I think he was dreadful really at the start. He then improved. We were all impressed with him, and then sort of gone the other way again. He's a very limited footballer, isn't he?
Yeah. It's mad this season with Michael Keane as well, because he started and we were all saying he's our best centre half, and then as the season's gone on, He hasn't been playing really, other than when we played the 5 at the back. He's not 1 or 2 choice, is he? He's probably 3rd choice.
I mean, we heard interviews this week about not being too happy about not being in the England squad. I mean, I think he's miles away from that. I think a young lad should be well in that squad before him at the club. I mean, but listen, Michael Keane got given a new contract last year.
Yeah.
So, in terms of that, did we do that to sort of boost his value up, or like to sort of see, like we could see the year after we could sort of get some transfer fee for him, maybe, but then you're left with Godfrey, Mason Holgate and a Yerry Mina. Me personally, the person who would go for me at this moment in time is Mason Holgate. I think he's 4th choice centre half, and when you sort of sort that right back position, he's going to be 3rd choice. He's behind a 32-year-old Seamus Coleman, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And he come in last season, he's done all right, he's done well. I don't think he's really progressed since then. I think he's got a lot of things that he needs to iron out in his game, and unfortunately, I don't think that should be at Everton. I think Mason could be a very good tool and to boost up our transfer budget. So yeah, he'd be one. I mean, if you're gonna go into talk about what the juicy parts about what people want is names and things like that. You sort of want a person, for me, who's very, like, for my opinion, the centre halves were all very right-sided heavy. Yeah. Not a lot of people can progress and be comfortable on that left side. I haven't seen it. You've seen Mason Holgate got caught.
Yeah.
On that left side. I think Godfrey's better at it, but I don't think he's comfortable in that position on that left side. I think he's very more progressive and more capable on that right side. Yerry Mina, again, every time he doesn't really play that left side, he plays the right side.
Yeah.
He's more comfortable on that. Michael Keane. Is he comfortable? I mean, I think with Michael Keane, I think he's just a bit of a no-nonsense centre-half, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's not a ball-playing defender or whatever once. He's not that, and I don't think he ever will be. He's a low-block, low-line player, like from Burnley. That's his style, and that's where I think he would flourish more.
Yeah.
But I don't think Everton are going to progress much with that.
Yeah.
So in terms of names, I could throw about 8 at you, but
get them at us.
If we just look at it, what approach Everton could do, in terms of what Everton could do approach-wise, I think we're looking into that age bracket, aren't we? Of maybe for a centre half in the bracket in terms of Godfrey age between maybe like a 22, 26, 27 type of player who has got top 5 experience. I think the 3 that have sort of pulled up is Coletta Carr from Marseille, Croatian centre half, who's he's 6'4". His passing stats are very good. He's quite progressive. He's very well covered. He's been linked with a lot of top clubs this season. I think this season as well. I think France, especially coming off a COVID season and money and all that, it's going to be a bit of a goldmine and sort of price cut. So, listen, he's very dominant in the air. He wins 69% of his aerial duels. He's won 68% of his defensive duels. He averages 4.72 interceptions. He does well recovery. Passing to the final third is 64%. I think as well, though, this is a key area, I think, for Everton. There's his long ball passes. He tries on average 6.42 long balls a game per 90, and his accuracy is 57%. Now that's very good for a centre half. For me anyway, in my opinion, when I'm looking for that sort of style. So yeah, he would be very high on my list. In terms of price-wise, you could probably put a price on him, maybe like in the region of 20 to 30 million. Maybe it could be lower. I know Marseille aren't the richest club in France, let's put it that way. I think they're going to be struggling this season, especially I don't think they're going to get Europe. But yeah, I think he's a very, very good player. If you want to go check him out, I certainly would. He's 24. The sort of trajectory is what Everton wants. So I think he'd be very good. My next one's going to be Bremer from Torino. Now he has been more made of to be played on the right hand side, but he is comfortable on the left, and he's also comfortable in a three if Everton do choose to play that. I know we've played that over this season. Maybe Carlo Ancelotti's very sort of fluid in his formations, not in his tactics, but in his formations. But yeah, again, Brazilian, 24-year-olds. Torino have had a bit of a torrid time at this season. I mean, they're floating around the relegation, but for a sort of centre half with the numbers he's put up, especially for that sort of for a sort of around that relegation area. I mean, his defensive duels are going to be high as he plays in a team with less possession. I mean, 7.2% defensive duels, 69% he wins them. He hasn't been that much dominant in the air in terms of winning his aerial duels, but it's more so for me his passing area.
Yeah.
His passing's very key for me. His forward passing, 79% accuracy. I think it's key as well. His long passes as well are in that 60% mark, 59%. I mean, it's very high.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at sort of what do Everton need in terms of a centre half? Well, we need a progressive passer really, and he makes 8.24 per 90 progressive passes with 68% accuracy. His final third, 70% accuracy. So he's a very good passer of the ball. Now, do we sort of risk that in terms of being sort of less dominant in the air than for a passer? Maybe, but I think he'd be I think he's definitely in the conversation.
Yeah.
So he'd be like my second choice, and then third choice. It was a bit difficult, really. Third choice because you're wondering, do you just go round into Europe and you think, right, Europe, let's just get players in from Europe and things like that. But the person who've come down on, and I think he's had a fantastic season, but I don't think he's getting the credit he deserves. And I've seen quite a few reports that he's going to be available this season, and it's Kurt Zouma.
Yeah.
I think we've had I think we've burnt our hands a few times with Kurt Zouma, haven't we? That we're going to get him and things like that. But I think he's been excellent for Chelsea. I think, as we know, he's very good at passing wise. I mean, his progressive passes in a sort of progressive team, you could say, 76% on accurate progressive passes. You know, his accurate passing to final third is 77%. Yeah. I mean, he's in that age where he's 26 now. He's going to be sort of coming into his prime. Now, I know we're talking about in terms of do we see like sort of we want these Ben Godfreys and all that, but I think we've got centre half. We've got that in Ben Godfrey at centre half. Yeah. I think we need now someone to just come in and improve the squad straight away.
Yeah.
And I think Kurt Zouma will be high up on the list for me. I mean, ready-made. We know how he does in the Premier League. He can play left side, right side. He can play in a three.
Knows the club.
Knows the club. Knows the league. Very important. Do you take a risk on it if those three are going to be in similar values in terms of thing? I think Kurt Zouma is sort of like a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah.
In terms of if that's going to be, I think did we get him quoted last year for 30 million?
I can't remember exactly, but it was around about that mark, I believe. Yeah.
So you would then assume that with a pandemic involved and all this with money wise and things like that, obviously Chelsea aren't short of money, are they?
Well,
but everyone's going to sort of take a bit of a hit, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
Zouma's in the situation where Mina is at Chelsea, where his contract is up in 2 years. Now, I think that's a bit of an Everton could exploit and finally get the player that they've always wanted. And I think Kurt Zouma would improve Everton massively.
Yeah.
And also it is a no-brainer. So yeah, collect a car, Bremer from Torino and Kurt Zouma. I mean, for all the hipsters out there, if they do want a player that I want to throw out there, and it's he's been injured this season, but he had a fantastic start season. A similar approach to what Wesley Fofana is. He's only played 21 games for his club, and that's David Carmo from Sporting Braga. I think this lad's going to be top draw. I think everything's in place for him. I feel like Portugal are going to start going through a bit of a stage of what France have with the centre halves.
Yeah.
You've seen a lot now. You've seen Ruben Diaz come and light it up, haven't they? So yeah, if anyone for the hipsters and what you sort of want to have a nose at, David Carmo for the Sporting Braga, and maybe he could be looked at for next summer.
Definitely. And in terms of the players currently at the club, then I mean, for me, I think you're spot on with Yerry Mina. I think the club have got to make a decision, and I do think that decision will be to keep Yerry Mina purely on the basis is that can't
afford to lose.
Yeah, he's our best centre half realistically, and I get that he falls slightly into the Hammers category of we have to accept that he's going to have a lot of injuries throughout the season, but we also then look at the West Ham game, and you could if you want an example of how good of a centre-back Yerry Mina is, and how important he is to this team, go and watch the 2 Aston Villa games and the West Ham game in between, and you can very clearly see which one Yerry Mina played, and he's dominant, he's a magnet to the ball, he gets to everything, he's good in the air, he's not afraid to, get involved in the physical element of the game and say to a centre-forward, no, I'm here, I'm going to make it difficult for you, and I don't think we have that throughout the rest of the squad. So I suppose that leaves, Michael Keane and Mason Holgate, because I think Ben Godfrey will still be here, and he should still be here. He's been excellent this season. Would it be Mason that I think Mason Holgate is probably would bring us more money because he's got the youth on his side. And also Mason had a fantastic season last season. He, like you said, he just hasn't progressed. So I think we're more likely to get a better deal for Mason Holgate than we are for Michael Keane if one of them's to leave, aren't we?
Yeah. In terms of looking at value and what. Like, we're looking at Moise Keane, and Everton's probably, all summer hopes is probably on Moise Keane going.
Yeah.
For like that 35, 45 million mark. So, in terms of trying to look for, like, who else has got that value, but won't be necessarily, for my opinion, affect the team a lot, and it's got to be Mason Holgate. I mean, he still holds that value. His contract's up in 2025. He's still young. I mean, in terms of maybe, like, people... teams coming up from La Liga, from Championship, or in that bottom half in particular, I think he'd fit very well in Newcastle's system. In that 3, being that right side of the 3. Obviously, Newcastle all their centre halves are coming to a certain age now, especially with contracts and that. Even Crystal Palace are the same. So I think there's a value there. I mean, if Everton got 15 to 20 million for Mason Holgate, I'd snap your hands off for it very quickly.
Yeah.
As I say, people probably think, get rid of a young player, but next season, if we do bring another right back in, I did say he was going to be third choice. It's just realisation there. He'll probably be fourth choice because Ben Godfrey will play there before him.
Yeah.
So he's coming fourth choice in centre half. He's becoming fourth choice at right back for 15, 20 million. Listen, with FFP, that doubles.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a bit of a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, smart business, isn't it? It's smart.
Exactly.
I think ultimately Everton are going to get to it. And it's mad because you see some people on social media and Twitter and stuff, and I see it in the comments, it'll be sound because we'll sell Keane for 60 million. We'll sell Gomez for 25. We'll sell Delph for 15. Bernard will go for 20. And I'm thinking, who's paying? Fabian Delph isn't going for more than 5 million if he leaves Everton. Not a chance. Probably less.
He might not even go for that.
That's what I mean. Probably less. Andre Gomez, if anyone's paying 20 million for Andre Gomez, I'd go in and say, are you sure you need your head testing a little bit here because that's a nonsense. Bernard isn't going for anywhere near.
I've found the busies, mate.
Yeah,
there's been a robbery.
There's definitely something going on there. Yeah, exactly. So there's going to get to a point where, especially with FFP, and FFP is a discussion for another day, we can sit down and talk about that and why, you know, that needs to change with obviously everything that's gone on in recent weeks with Super League and all that nonsense. But
just take quick on that, on where we were saying 15 million to 20 million for Mason Holgate. Everton could then go and get Kurt Zouma for 25 and structure it where FFP, that sort of negates that transfer fee.
Yeah, exactly.
So basically what we're saying is that who would you, if you went and sold Mason Holgate for 15, 20 and then brought in Kurt Zouma,
that's it. Yeah.
I mean, when you put it like that, it makes sense. Obvious, isn't it?
It
makes a lot of sense. Even Coletta Carr, if they couldn't get Kurt Zouma, Coletta Carr is I rate Coletta Carr very highly.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I think he's gonna get his big move very soon, Coletta Carr.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And then you mentioned before, and we'll talk about midfielders on a separate video, but you mentioned about Samari. As soon as I seen Fabrizio Romano tweet about Boubakary Samari going to Leicester, I just put my head in my hands and thought, what are we doing? Why aren't we jumping on that? Why aren't we there? Why aren't we in that market? But no.
For 20, listen, just on that though, dead quick. For 20 million. It's for me, for a Premier League club, it's quite low risk.
Yeah, it is high reward.
Because if he doesn't really settle and things like that, you put him out on loan, and if he has a very good loan, like a Moise Keane, he holds his value, and then you go and find a similar profile age-wise who you think would then improve Leicester. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Leicester don't sort of negate from the recruitment strategy.
No.
They don't let like a Ariosi Pere or like in Nacho who's come out very well negate from what they do.
Yeah.
It's this, and we believe in it.
Yeah, absolutely spot on, and that's it. And as Leicester have done time and time again, I'm not saying sell our best players, sell, you know, your Calvert-Lewins or your Godfreys, etc. But there's gonna come a point where we need to sell players that have got value to sell on. We can't just say, yeah, well, we'll sell all our deadwood and we'll make 100 million. No one's buying the deadwood for anywhere near. The likes of your Delphs, your Gomez, they're not going for more than 10 million, either of them, because they're not good enough. So we probably are going to have to bite the bullet on somebody like a Holgate who's got that selling value, who's got a contract there, who ultimately is, again, has been inconsistent, but has shown that he's got potential. But yeah, look, no, I agree, spot on. I think you brought up 3 fantastic names there, and I think, again, centre-back is a situation. Where do you stand with centre-back? Do you think it's number 1? Do you think it's maybe behind? Obviously, you know, you got your right-back, centre-mid, winger. Where do you think centre-back fits in the summer? Do you think it's sort of number 1 priority?
No, I think it's third. I think it's third. I think you look at it right back, obviously.
Yeah.
Then you go, obviously, into wingers. You need wingers. I mean, we're crying out for speed, pace, and power there.
Just any of it.
Yeah, just
someone that can run. Don't even get someone that can play footy. Just go and get someone that can run.
Bring Walcott back.
Yeah.
But
Aaron Lennon.
Yeah. I think. I know. Listen, you can say midfield and all that, but I think Everton, not in my opinion, but I think in terms of the club's opinion, I think Everton have sort of not set, but they're set in terms of the first team players.
Yeah.
So I think it's third. I think it's a massive hole.
Absolutely.
And I don't think a lot of fans realise that. I feel like a lot of people go, we need strikers, we need attacking, we need. Listen, our home form, we've put about. I think we've look at our goal difference.
Yeah.
You know,
it's dreadful.
It's +3.
And everyone else is about 20.
It's +16, you know what I mean? It's horrendous. So, yeah, it's third choice on my list.
Yeah. No, I agree. Well, let's move on then to what I think is first choice for myself, first choice for you, Tom, first choice for every Evertonian, and it's right back. Look, we don't need to spend too much time talking about Seamus Coleman. Seamus has had a fantastic career. Some would say he's an Everton icon. He's been brilliant. The amount of commitment he's shown to Everton Football Club is brilliant, and it is. Look, Seamus could have left for for Bayern Munich, for Man United 5, 6, 7 years ago, and that's brilliant. And Carlo's come out recently and said he's got a lifetime contract at Everton, and I don't particularly mind that as long as he's not playing week in, week out, because it's very clear that, and we've said this for years, mate. If Seamus plays 1 in 5, he'll be absolutely brilliant, because he's technically, he's got the heart, and if he's got that sort of fitness and stamina, he'll put in a good performance. But as soon as he starts playing 3 and 5, 2, 3 and 5, that's when you start to see the weaknesses of Seamus Coleman. It's not even a discussion point. We need a new right back. We're in this situation this summer as we were a couple of summers ago with Luca Dean and Leighton Baines, where we just need to go out and sign a first choice who's going to play 38 games in a season, and Seamus can maybe play the cup games or the odd game to to give whoever comes in a bit of a rest. Obviously, there's names floating about. There has been names floating about for weeks. We've been heavily linked with Max Aarons at Norwich, Fabrizio Romano, quite vocal in his news or his sources that Everton, he at one point said that in advanced talks for Max Aarons, and at various other points he said they're preparing for Max Aarons and they're leading the race, etc. He's also recently come out and said Everton are looking at other options and other teams are in for Max Aarons, which I think is something that frustrated and worried a lot of Evertonians, not me. All that says to me is that Everton aren't putting all their eggs in Max Aarons' basket. They're looking at other options, which is what we should be doing, and other clubs are looking at Max Aarons, which is obvious. If other clubs weren't looking at Max Aarons, I'd be worried, because that says to me other clubs would go 30 million for him, you're mad, aren't you? He's not that good. And it'd be Everton paying that money when no one else is really interested. So I've got no big issue with Fabrizio Romano coming out and saying what he said about Everton looking at other options. Ridle Baku is another name that I think a lot of fans are starting to sort of overtake Max Aarons with and say, hang on, why don't we just go out and spend the extra money and get this lad who obviously has looked absolutely brilliant this season. Listen, right back is number one, isn't it? It's a necessity. And are those two players two of the names on your list? Then out of them two, I suppose, or maybe somebody else who could come in on a little bit cheaper. Marcel Brands has got a job ultimately at the moment, hasn't he? He's got this is number one. This is the position that we need to go out and buy in the summer.
Oh, it's glaringly obvious, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I mean, we sort of seem to do this, Everton, and not sort of like pick out some positions over the years, like centre half was a glaring obvious. We never bothered.
Yeah.
Did we? You know what I mean? We just went to a season with like 3 centre halves and went, go ahead, let's start.
Centre forward was before Calvert-Lewin come into his own after Lukaku left.
We'll put it this way: Lukaku's never been replaced, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And they've never even attempted to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Listen, Calvert-Lewin has been developed, yeah. Duncan Ferguson's got a lot to do with it as well, but personally think that's all down to him and his attitude.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't really think him in a Ronald Koeman system playing right wing back was a very good development thing. No,
not a chance. That's like you said, that's Dom and his mentality and his attitude.
Yeah. So anyway, getting back to right back,
Calvert-Lewin for right back.
Yeah. Just go play it 3 at the back and throw in there. We'll get goals from the right side then. Personally, me, I wouldn't go and spend 30 odd million plus on a right back.
Okay.
I mean, I don't necessarily think it's an important position, but I don't think it's like massively needed in terms of spending that much money on it.
Yeah.
We've obviously seen Luca Dean was 20 million.
Yeah.
That's worked out perfectly. He come at a right age. He was 24. So for me personally, I wouldn't. I mean, I like Ridle Baku, but I've got questions about whether he would sort of become sort of develop right, or sort of become a good right back in the Premier League. I don't know whether it'll suit his style.
Yeah,
he can play right mid as well. I think he's been played there a lot more than right back over the latter parts of the season. I mean, he's what, like 5'6", I think.
Yeah.
I mean, 5'9", 5'7", round that Lamptey, the big, that everyone loves.
Yeah, he's another name as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think in terms of those specific players, I think they're very good in a certain style. Where I think if you were going to get a Ridle Baku, I think he'd be very good as a right wing back.
Yeah. Okay.
Everton don't play with right wing backs.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to necessarily. I think we've tried to over the last two games. Is Carlo Ancelotti going to continue with that system? I highly doubt it.
Yeah.
So for me, I think it boils down to one glaring obvious player, and it's Emerson from Real Betis.
Okay.
I mean, he's been the best right back in Spain for the last 2 years. He's been on loan. I think it's a bit of a weird contract thing going on with Betis and Barcelona, how they do it, like sort of part ownership and things like this. But I delved into it a little bit, and from my understanding from it was that this season Barcelona had a 6 million. 6 million. I don't know whether it was obligation or they could buy him for 6 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like I said, it is obvious. It's
Yeah.
obvious, isn't it? Emerson's sort of that player that you can. I think it's a bit of a no-brainer again. In terms of I looked into the, like I said, I looked into the research of what the sort of feel what's going on with Real Betis and Barcelona. They had an obligation.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it was an obligation or they've got sort of like a choice whether they can buy him for 6 million. But if they do sign him for 6 million, I think the reports are coming out saying that he'll be available for 20 million.
Yeah.
For 25 million euros. Sorry, so that's around about what 20 million for English.
Yeah.
So I think it's quite obvious. I mean, Everton are looking in these top 5 leagues, and what I like to see is I like to see to sort of bring the low risk down. I like to see them go do it season after season. Now this lad's done it for 2 seasons in a row.
Yeah.
I think he's a workhorse. He's up and down the line. His crossing's very good. He's everything you want really in a modern day fullback for me. And listen, it's just glaringly obvious.
Yeah. Yeah. So in terms of, for you then, there's better options. I know obviously Max Adams is again, he's in the forefront of it because he's played in England. He's got that relationship with Ben Godfrey. He is young, he's up and coming. He's got a lot of potential, but he would cost a lot of money, wouldn't he? And are you sort of sitting there thinking we need to invest that money into other areas on the pitch and we can buy a right back as good as him for a lot less money because they're not in the light, if you like.
Yeah, but if Everton have got, say, a certain amount of money, just say that, for example, you've got 100 million.
Yeah.
100 million to spend this summer. Does 30 million to you sound like the right idea to go on a right back? And then you've got 60 million to 70 million to sort of then go and find a centre mid, a winger, a supposed centre foot, a backup centre half.
Yeah.
It's going to be difficult. Now, for me, I would much rather look for a better alternative for cheaper.
Yeah.
Now, my eyes, for the size and for the sort of, in my opinion, he's probably going to be Brazil's right back, who's going to be probably on terms, in my opinion, as what Dani Alves was. So, if you look at that for 20 million, if you could, like we've said previously, you want to start mirroring what Everton have got on the left side in terms of Liverpool, and I think Emerson's it. I mean, if you want to look at another one, I think we've spoken about. I think he's been mentioned against Selleck from Lille.
Yeah.
I think that's another obvious one. I think he's done it year after year at Lille. They're both 20. Emerson's 22 and Selleck's 24. I mean, they're coming into an age where you can sort of give them that opportunity. So, yeah, I think for me, I think if you could go, then you could get a right back who's going to be a right back for, say, 5 years, next 5 years.
Yeah.
For 20 million, or you go and take a bit of a risk on an English talent who could need a little bit more development, but for 35 million, I feel like you've got to be more cautious and be. Everton have got it, as like you said, Everton have got to get it right with this right back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everton can't spend 35 million or 30 million in that bracket on Max Adams for it to not work.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I suppose Ridle Baku would probably cost in and around that same bracket as Max Adams as well. Yeah,
Baku for me would not even come into my realm of thought for Everton. I know a lot of people like it and things like that, but it's just me personally. I think it's a bit of flavour of the month what you like. I don't necessarily think he fits in Everton. I don't necessarily think he fits in the Premier League. Would he lead a Wolfsburg team that's probably going to get Champions League? Maybe not. 23. He's probably settled, comfortable. Then does he go and get, in a year's time, go get his big move to Bayern Munich or Dortmund? Probably.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying he's a bad player, but in my terms, it's horses for courses.
Yeah.
And there's a certain type of physical capability and stature that you need in the Premier League, and I think Emerson and Sillick have that over a Baku and a Max Aarons.
Yeah.
Listen, Max Aarons could be brilliant. He could go to Arsenal, where I think he would fit better in that sort of style of play that Mikel Arteta wants. But in terms of what Everton wants, we want a work rate and a crosser. So, and someone who can progress the ball, and I think Emerson and Sillick do that very well.
Yeah, absolutely, fair enough. Well, Sillick was a name who was linked with Everton last summer as well, wasn't he? Quite heavily, and again, the club seemingly identified we needed a right back and then just decided to not go out and buy one. I think all hopes were pinned on John Joe Kenny, which lasted all of about a week. But now you're spot on. There's two players there that, you know, Everton again, Marcel Brands should be.
Again, you've just hit the nail on it. John Joe Kenny will probably cost what, 5 million?
Yeah.
Maybe around. There's no more money adding to it. It's starting to add up.
Well, I've seen a lot of Celtic fans talking about him, and they don't particularly seem very happy with him. So,
listen, you could go back to Schalke.
Yeah,
I know Schalke have just got relegated and things like that, but someone will maybe in the Championship, someone will take Kenny.
Yeah,
someone will look at that and think we can work with that.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, if you're looking at maybe like 3 to 5 million, maybe, but it all adds up. Doesn't it? Just one at the end for the Al hipsters again, for the lads who love a good random name, and it's going back to Torino. I feel like I'm just gonna pluck Torino out everywhere. It's unfortunately, sorry Torino fans, but and it's a 20-year-old Ivory Coast player, and it's Wilfred Singo. Now this lad could be something special. He's 6'3", right back. He has got all the talent in the world to be sensational. He can play similar to what Baku does. He can play right back, right wing, in my opinion. He's played at right wing back. Little bit raw in terms of defensive, but go watch that, lads. That's a risk. In terms of what he will cost, listen, I don't know, but if it was around that 10 to 15 million mark, listen, I think that especially for what I've seen from him, he could be very, very good.
Absolutely. Well, there you go again. Names out there that Everton should be looking at, and notice how Tom hasn't mentioned and I haven't mentioned any of these players that played in the Champions League 7 years ago and are 33 years old and have been injured ever since. We need young, hungry players that come in, that fit the bill. I think you're spot on, mate. Fit the bill of the Premier League. They've got to be physical. They've got to be able to battle. Can't be too lightweight. We saw that with Bernard. Bernard technically is a good footballer. He is. He's skillful. He can pass a ball. He can score. But he just isn't the physical build that we need in the Premier League, and that's why he's not starting. That's why you've hardly seen him for the last 6 months, because he's not up to that physical build, and that's what we need. Like you said, pace, power,
and athleticism.
Yeah, exactly, and mobility to get about the pitch, and like
PPA. We need PPA.
Yeah, pace, power, athleticism. Yeah, well, that's it. And we just simply don't have enough of it in this team, in this squad, and. You know, I think right back is number one and will be number one in the summer. And, you know, like you've just said then, I've got no issue with Everton looking at other options. If Everton had every egg in Max Aarons' basket, I'd be worried. Because that means that knowing Everton, Max Aarons would say, oh no, I want to go to Arsenal. And then we'd be sitting there with 3 weeks to go in the summer and we'd probably end up lashing 45 million on Branislav Ivanovic or something like that to come in and just be a backup, you know, or to be our number one right back. And that's not what we need. We need, you know, if Everton are after Aarons, brilliant, yeah, but we also might look at Selleck, we also might look at Emerson, we also might look at Baku, we also might look at various other players in that area, and it's about finding out who the best player is for the the best value for money ultimately if you can sign.
I think unfortunately at this moment in time, Everton have got to go get a ready-made right back. You've got to. There's no sort of to and fro. And like, I would love Everton to go get Wilfred Single from Torino, but he carries a higher risk than what Emerson and Serif do. So even I think Coleman's contract's up next year, isn't it? That's where you could probably go, right, well, we could go look at like an 18 to 21 year old now. Or maybe like a 19-year-old who's sort of had one season, like a Wilfred Singo, and think, well, yeah, let's bring him, and he can sort of play right wing and right back, sort of play in both positions. So absolutely.
No, I agree, absolutely, completely. You're right. It's and I think that'd be a spot on way to do it. To be honest with you, go and buy a ready-made right back that can fit in and do what Luca Dean's doing on the left, and then when Seamus Coleman's ready to, whether it be retired or stick around or whatever, then you go and buy your younger player that, don't get me wrong, can be made up with Max Aarons and Baku, but it is a risk. It's a risk that might work out to be absolutely excellent and it'd be brilliant, or it's a risk that mightn't work out, and ultimately that's the conundrum that Marcel Brands and Carlo Ancelotti have got this summer. Well, there you go. That is our defensive discussion. We will be back over the next couple of days talking about midfielders and forwards as well, so stick around for those. Massive thanks to Tom for joining us. You can check out Tom's Twitter in the description down below. Go and give him a follow. He's also going to be starting a podcast in the next sort of coming weeks and months or so definitely get on Tom's new podcast. Give it a listen when it starts up. Support it. Subscribe, like, follow, all of that good stuff. Share it as well. I can't wait to listen to that one, and hopefully Tom will have me on to ramble about Everton, because that's what we all like doing best, don't we? We all like rambling about Everton, even when we're a bit poo, let's be honest. But anyway, massive thanks for joining us on this episode. If you have enjoyed it, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. Massive summer ahead, and there you go. That's what Everton need in the defence, where we need to improve, and the types of players we should be looking at. Big thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.